Hi, my name is Michael Langsner. I'm a professional voiceover talent as well as the founder of Voiceover Roadmap. I am also a sound designer and demo producer. And I wanted to make this video to show these 3 new free do-it-yourself voiceover demo beds that I created for really voiceover talent of any experience level to make your own sample spots and even your own sample reels. So what these are 3 music and sound effects beds in different styles and genres that were made specifically and mixed specifically for you to layer your own voiceover on top of very simply, very easily with the least amount of work on your end so that you can make your own demo samples even if you're not really a very experienced audio engineer or sound designer yourself. So who these are great for are, like I said, really talent of any experience level. Obviously, if you're just starting out, these could be great to help you really put together your first reel or your first demo samples. Or even if you're a more experienced talent and you already have work examples, you have a professional demo already, and you just want to expand your portfolio. Maybe you don't have something in a certain genre or style that one of these demo beds covers. This can be a great way to help you sort of add that to your portfolio. And especially these days on casting sites and even on your own website, it's really useful to have individual clips either in addition to or even maybe instead of a full compilation demo reel so that prospects and clients can find exactly what they're looking for and listen to specific types of read styles on your website and on your casting profiles. And it also helps with searchability in search engines and also on the casting sites as well. So before we jump over to the DAW and start editing and showing you how to actually use these, I just want to give you a quick overview of what we have available here. So there's 3 spots. You see Henderson Tea, we have a luxury car spot, and we have a book subscription service spot. These green buttons, you can download each one individually, or if you'd just like to download all 3, you can do that as well. And when you download them, what you're going to get is 3 things for each one of these. You're going to obviously get the bed, which is the music and sound effects bed with no voiceover, so you can put your own voiceover into it. You're also going to get a version of it with my voiceover that you can use as a reference. And I'm going to go over later in this video how that's going to come in useful and how you can use that reference. And then third, you're going to get the script in a PDF format. So quickly, let me just show you the 3 options that we have available here. So this first one, as you can see here, warm, sincere, a little bit more emotional read. I'll play just a few seconds for you so you can hear it. There's a moment in each day, a quiet pause, a time to reconnect with yourself. So that's the idea for that one. Then we have a luxury car spot. So, like a sort of slick, a little bit more dramatic kind of read for this one. When the world moves fast, true luxury is the ability to slow down, to feel. Okay. And a book subscription service. So imagine this. You're sitting in your living room, and all of a sudden, a new book chosen just for you gets plopped right on your doorstep. Conversational, friendly, upbeat, something that you've probably seen a million times, so super useful, super relevant style of read. So when you download these, you're going to get everything that I mentioned before, and now what I want to do in this video is actually show you a simple way that you can use these and then a little bit more advanced method to use these. If you have that experience with editing and you're a little bit more advanced in your capabilities there, I'll go over a few additional things you can do to sort of take it, that extra 10, 20% or so. So now let's hop over to, for me, Pro Tools, but you can use any DAW, it doesn't matter, and I'll show you how to start using these. But before we get into that, just a couple prerequisites. Before you use these demo beds, you need to have a home studio, you need to have a decent level of performance skill as a VO talent, and you need to know how to record and edit yourself as a voiceover talent. That's all prerequisites. If you can't do that stuff yet, then you're really not at the level where you need a demo, even a DIY demo, let alone a professional demo. Because when you're auditioning, when you're submitting work for clients, you're going to obviously need to know how to record and edit on your own so you can send those files to them. So this assumes that you already are at that level and you can do that. And if so, you can move along to using these beds to create some demos for yourself. So what I'm going to do is, you see that I have my DAW here. I'm in Pro Tools, but whatever you're in is fine. If you use Audition or Twisted Wave, GarageBand, any DAW is fine, as long as you know how to use it and as long as you can set up multiple tracks. So what we're going to do is basically pull 3 things into a brand new session. So you see I have 3 tracks here. Obviously our voiceover. So this is your already recorded and edited voiceover bounced just as you would if you were sending out an audition or a project. Here's the bed. We're going to pull that in on its own track. This, you'll notice, is a stereo track because the bed is stereo. It's music and sound effects. And then a reference. The reference is basically a version that I recorded myself and put together that you can import into your session, that you can sort of A/B your own work with against this reference. And that's going to be really helpful to just sort of check your balance between your voiceover and the bed, to check the final overall levels of the entire demo spot once it's done. And you can also use it if you'd like for sort of a performance reference. You can check your pacing against my pacing, the tone and style, but that's going to be you. You want to showcase your own voice. You definitely don't need to mimic what I did or try to copy me in any way, but it could still just be helpful to sort of hear how it was paced in an example and in a reference, so that you can use that as a guide when you're setting this up for yourself. So with that out of the way, let's get into the simple way of using these beds. So you'll see here, I have my voiceover on this blue track and I have the bed on this green track. So let's just take a listen to the bed quickly. This is what that sounds like. There's our bed, and here's our voiceover. Let's solo that.
There's a moment in each day, a quiet pause, a time to reconnect with yourself.
Okay, just to give you a little idea of what we're working with. So what you will do is pull both of these onto separate tracks into your session and you'll see the volume is at 0 and 0. So it's just at unity or just at 0. I didn't adjust the volume on either one of those. So what we're going to need to do is obviously adjust the volume, and because we need a better balance. Because if we listen to how it sounds now, I'll go somewhere in the middle here, and let's listen to what it sounds like with both of them just at 0.
That's why we craft our tea from the finest hand-picked leaves, sourced from small farms around the world.
It's a little bit messy, and they're kind of fighting with each other, so we need to adjust this balance. So these beds are pre-made. I set them up, sound design them, mix them for this purpose of this specific script, this voiceover being laid into it. So it's mixed and ready to have the voiceover laid on top of it. But obviously, different people are going to record at different levels. Your studio is obviously different from somebody else's studio. Your final levels are going to be different. So when you can't just simply lay your voiceover on top of it, you have to at least do a little bit of balancing. So what I would say to do, what I'd recommend is leave the voiceover at 0. Leave this at your standard level that you bounce your voiceovers at. And what we're going to do instead is adjust the bed and pull that down until we get to a nice level and a nice mix. So I'm going to just pull up the fader here. Let's drop this to, let's try something like -6, -6.1. That's fine. And let's just take a listen to that.
At Henderson Tea,
Actually, let's start from the top.
there's a moment in each day, a quiet pause, a time to reconnect with yourself and with nature.
Yeah, no, that's not too bad. Let's listen to a little bit busier.
Sourced
area.
from small farms.
Let's actually go here.
That's why we craft our tea from the finest hand-picked leaves, sourced from small farms around the world.
It's not bad. I think it could probably drop a little bit more. I might go to something like -7. So let me just try that. -7. Let's just hear that.
That's why we craft our tea from the finest hand-picked leaves, sourced from small farms around the world. Each sip brings warmth, calm.
I might even go a little bit more. Let's try -7.5. Because the purpose of this, don't forget, is it's a voiceover demo. It's to showcase your voice. So we really want your voice front and center. I'm going to go 7.5, maybe even 8.
That's why we craft our tea from the finest hand-picked leaves, sourced from small farms around the world.
I like that better. So that's basically the first step, is just setting up that balance. And because I landed on -8 here, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're going to want to just set it at for yourself. You could, and it might work, and it might be a good starting point for sure. But like I said before, your voiceover levels, the way your studio is set up, your levels are not going to be exactly the same as mine. So trust your ear. If you want to, play with it and use -8 like I have here as a starting point, that's fine. But adjust to taste and adjust based on your specific levels. And again, this is where the reference is going to come in handy. You can pull this reference into your session, solo that up, and just listen to how I mixed the reference.
At Henderson Tea, we believe in the power of small rituals. That's why we craft our tea from the finest hand-picked leaves, sourced from small farms around the world.
I actually have the voiceover even standing out a little bit more there, I think. So maybe let's pull this down to -9. Try something like that. Let's just hear what that sounds like.
And with nature. At Henderson Tea, we believe in the power of small rituals. That's why we craft our tea from the finest hand-picked leaves.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. So that's really the first step, and that's really the simple, basic way of doing that and setting this up. That's, like I said, 70-80% of the way there. And then what I would do is adjust your pacing of your actual voiceover. So you don't necessarily, you'll see I have these both right up at the very top of the session, but we can have the voiceover start a little bit after. Let the music breathe for a second or two. So let's hear what that sounds like.
There's a moment in each day.
Yeah, that's not bad. I would start it maybe even a little bit earlier. Let's try that.
There's a moment in each day. A quiet pause. A time to reconnect with yourself. And with nature.
Yeah, that's not bad. And feel free to, chop up your voiceover if you want to edit and adjust the pacing. Again, you can use the reference if you want to try to match my pacing, but there's nothing that says that you have to do that. Do whatever feels natural, whatever feels comfortable for you. But that's it. That's the simple way. So basically putting the voiceover, putting the bed into your session, pulling the level of the bed down until you get a nice balance between the two, and adjust the pacing of your voiceover so it all fits nicely. That's the simple way. Now, if you're a little bit more advanced, if you have a little bit more experience with editing, here's 5 other things that we can do to actually take this a little bit further. So the first thing is EQ carving. So what that means is we're going to put an EQ on the bed track, and we're going to just carve out a little space for the voiceover to sit. So I'm going to add an EQ plugin, and you don't need a third party. You don't have to get really expensive plugins. Stock plugins are fine. Here is the Pro Tools stock EQ. That's what that looks like. And if you look, I'm going to just basically carve out a little bit. I just know for my voice, something in 2K to 3K works. So let's do something around 2K. I'm going to pull down. You'll see that start to move. I'm going to pull out like, let's say 6 dB. And the Q is how narrow or how broad of a cut we're going to do. So I'll do something like, 1.3, something like that. And what that's going to do is create a little bit of space sonically in the EQ spectrum for our voiceover to sit. Now, what you could do also, if you're not sure, I'd say in the 1K to 3K range is a good area to look at. But if you really want to get specific with it, you can use some sort of spectral analysis plugin on your voiceover track and sort of see where in the frequency spectrum your voice is very present for your specific voice. And let's say it's at 2.7K. Then you come back here, go to 2.7K, and drop out a little bit like that. So if you want to do that, but really, honestly, you don't have to get too in the weeds with that. Something in the 1 to 3K range should probably do what we want. And now let's take a listen to the bed with and without that EQ cut. So here's with it off. This is just the bed by itself. Now I'm going to switch it on. See how we lost a lot of that presence, a lot of that sort of clarity. But on its own, it sounds kind of bad. But when we mix the voiceover with it, it's kind of nice because it gives room for the voiceover to be present. So it's not really fighting as much with the bed in that area. So let's take a listen with the voiceover. Here we go. And this is with it bypassed first, and then I'll unbypass it and turn the EQ back on.
At Henderson Tea, we believe in the power of small rituals. That's why we craft our tea from the finest hand-picked leaves, sourced from small farms around the world.
Now let's hear that same thing with the EQ.
At Henderson Tea, we believe in the power of small rituals. That's why we craft our tea from the finest hand-picked leaves, sourced from small farms around the world. Each sip brings warmth, calm.
Yeah, see, so that's nice. And then it gives just a little bit of space for that voiceover to just sort of step forward a little bit. That's the idea. So that's EQ carving. That's the first thing that I'd recommend in the more advanced way of using these DIY beds. The next is volume automation. So what that means is we're going to go to our bed, and I'm going to just close the EQ for now. And here's my volume. And you could just see it's static right now. It's just a straight line. So we're at -9, and it's just there the whole time. Automation means you're changing the volume. It's actually lifting and dropping throughout the length of the spot. So what I'd recommend, a kind of nice thing to do, is sort of start it a little bit louder and then kind of drop into the voiceover. So let's see if I pick this up here. So all I'm doing is just drawing this line in basically. And you can see now there's this little step, and then it's going to drop down. So we're starting at -6.8 if you look here. And then once I get to here, we're back to our -9. So let's hear what that sounds like.
There's a moment in each day.
And it's subtle. I mean, a lot of these things are subtle, but it just kind of gives a nice little drop. I might even exaggerate it a little bit more. Let's try that.
There's a moment in each day.
Yeah, so just stuff like that. And you can get creative with it if you want. Don't go overboard. You don't want to be lifting and dropping. You don't want it to be noticeable. This really should be subtle. Specifically for this kind of work, you really want this sort of automation to be subtle. But a nice sort of lift and dropping into the voiceover, and then sort of the reverse at the end are two good starting ideas for this kind of stuff. So here's the end.
Sip the moment.
And now let's try it with a little lift. So here's my voiceover. Right about where the voiceover ends, I'm going to jump up slightly. Let's hear what that sounds like.
Henderson T. Sip the moment.
Yeah, and it just kind of adds a nice little finality to it and stuff. So you can do that, and you can do that in the middle too if there's little moments where it might feel nice for the bed to jump up, or if there's a sound effect you want to accentuate, like in this specific one, there's a sound effect of the teacup sort of sliding across the table.
Sure. At Henderson T.
Yeah, like right there. So if you want to kind of...
At Henderson...
Let me just solo the bed for a second. So that's like right about here. So if I want to just kind of accentuate that, can do a little boost there, just subtle things like that.
At Henderson T, we believe...
All that kind of stuff. So that is volume automation. That's the second. Third is glue compression. Now, what this is going to require is making a new track where we basically put these two tracks together, where we sum our voiceover and our music bed together. So in Pro Tools, this is done by creating a new, in this case, stereo aux track. I'm going to call this my mix bus because that's kind of what it is. It's a mix. It basically is a mix bus. It's the mix of these two things. And this will, this specific process will be a little different depending on your DAW. So if you don't know how to do this, just look up bus tracks, aux tracks, and your DAW. If you just Google that, I'm sure you'll figure out instructions how to do that if you're not already aware. But in Pro Tools, I'm just going to set this up. So I'm going to give this an input of something like 7, 8, and then I'm going to send these to 7 and 8. So this goes to 7 and 8. This goes to 7 and 8. So now I'm basically just sending this track and this track to this track. So they're summed together here. And what that allows me to do is put some processing on this track that's going to affect them both simultaneously, which is what we want for this next step, which is going to be glue compression. So basically putting a compressor on this mix bus track that's just going to help just sort of stick these two together a little bit better. Again, you can use stock EQ, stock compressors, stock plugins for all this stuff. So don't worry about third-party plugins or really expensive stuff. It's fine. So here's my compressor, and it is now affecting both of these. This is just the default settings. Let's just take a listen what that sounds like.
There's a moment in each day. A quiet pause.
So it's working way too hard. Here's gain reduction, which is a measure of basically how hard the compressor is working.
There's a moment in each day.
I basically want something up here in the -2 to -3 range, and we're at like -8. So I'm going to just back off the threshold a lot.
There's a moment in each day. A quiet pause.
Now you can see we're kind of
time to reconnect with yourself.
-1.
And with nature. At Henderson T,
down to
we believe in the power of small rituals.
Yeah, and the ratio is how forcefully basically the compressor is working. So I'm going to just pull that down slightly too, because again, this is all subtle stuff. We don't really want it to be very, very noticeable or audible. We just want to make kind of slight polishing improvements.
At Henderson Tea, we believe in the power of small rituals. That's why we craft our tea from the finest hand-picked leaves, sourced from small farms around the world.
Yeah, I like that. That's good for now, and at least for the purposes of demonstrating this. So glue compression, that's the third. Fourth would be basically editing the bed itself. And there's nothing that says you have to plop this bed in here and just use it as is. You can definitely edit it if you want to shorten it. If you want to lengthen it, you can loop certain parts of it so you can extend the length of it. Because your voice, your style, your pacing, your speed, everything is going to be different than mine. So feel free to adjust the bed to your voice. Basically, again, we're showcasing your voice. So let your voice lead the way and adjust the bed to fit that. That's kind of an overall guiding principle for using these. But to give you an example, let's just say that I wanted this to end earlier, right? Because you see the voiceover ends here and there's a good, 5 seconds or so left. Let's say we wanted this last hit of the music to really line up pretty close with the last word. Let's say that's what we want to do. So The way to do this is in Pro Tools, it's called tab to transient. But again, just look that up for your own DAW. Go Google, type in your DAW, type in transient, tab to transient. And what that does is I can click somewhere on the file, and if I hit the tab key, it'll bounce me along the file to each transient. And the transients are how we're going to find specific beats of the music so that we can make a nice seamless edit. So what we're going to do first, let's find the beat right on the end, which is this. And you could hear it's right at the end. That's our final downbeat. And I got there just by knowing, I could just hear that it's right here. So you just click a little bit before it and just tab, 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 tab until we're on it. And now I know I'm exactly on it. So I'm going to just split the file there. And now this is a file right at the end. And now I have to find a place where I can put that. So let's find a place right around here with a nice downbeat. So let's listen a little bit. I'm going to solo it. So right there would be good. It'd be nice if this was the final. So let's find, so since we know it's there, let's go a little bit before it and tab, 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 tab. Let's see, that might be it. I think that's it. Let me hear the next. Yeah, the next one's too far. So it's that one. Just go back to it. There we go. So now basically I know I just need to delete this section and then slam this up against that. And that's what I'm going to do. So this is deleted. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to just slam it right up against that. And then let's just listen to that as is. Just the bed soloed. So no voiceover yet. It's a little rough. So what you can do is a crossfade. Let's see what that does. It's not bad, but it's not perfect either. For the purposes of this demonstration, I think that's fine. But that's the point I'm trying to make, is you find a beat and you put it, like that would probably honestly fit better if I put it, let me hear. Might work better here on this one. Let's try that. Yeah, it's a little bit better. It's rough there, but if we do a crossfade, that should sound pretty good. Yeah, see how seamless that could be if you get it right on the transient, right on the beats, and crossfades will definitely be a nice help for you as well. But yeah, you can adjust the bed, make it end where you want it to end. If you want to make it a different part of it, let's say the music was really busy here and you didn't like it, you liked the quieter part, same kind of thing. You can just tap the transient, find the beginning of the quiet part, find the end of the quiet part, and basically just move this. And you can do something like a copy paste and then just slam that up against it. And that, I did that really rough, so I don't know what that's going to sound like. Let's just hear that. Yeah, it's a little rough, but it drops out. The sound effect drops out, but crossfades are your friends, so they can help. Yeah, it's kind of rough still, but it's not bad. So that's another thing you can do, editing the bed. And the final thing is just your overall mastering levels. And again, this is where the reference comes in handy. You can just use your ear. That's probably, the simplest way to do it. Just match your level to this reference. Make sure they sound about the same volume level. But if you want to get more specific with it, you can put a volume or a metering plugin on your master bus or your mix bus. Let me see what I have here. I don't know if there's a stock one in Pro Tools. There's definitely free ones. If you just type in free metering, free level metering plugin, you can definitely find some online. But for the sake of just showing you this quickly, I'm going to use one that's not free that I just have and like and use. This is Isotope's Insight. But basically, if I just now play this whole thing, so I'm not going to solo it, I'm going to listen to the voice and the bed together. Let's hear that.
At Henderson Tea, we believe in the power of small rituals. That's why we craft our tea.
I'm going to go back, actually. Let me fix what I did with the music since I kind of messed that up. Okay, let's just say it's back like this. Okay. And really, when you're doing this, it's a good idea, especially because these are 60 seconds or 30 seconds. They're not long. Listen to the whole thing and let your metering plugin actually listen to the whole file, so you're getting an overall loudness measurement of the whole thing. You can just take a little chunk and base it off that, and you probably won't be too far off, but why not? It's 30 seconds, so let's just do that.
There's a moment in each day, a quiet pause, a time to reconnect with yourself and with nature. At Henderson Tea, we believe in the power of small rituals. That's why we craft our tea from the finest hand-picked leaves, sourced from small farms around the world. Each sip brings warmth, calm, and balance. A reminder that the simplest moments can mean the most. Henderson Tea. Sip the moment.
Okay, so we're at about 18.5. A good target to shoot for is, I'd say, minus 14, minus 13, maybe minus 12. Again, it doesn't have to be a hard and fast rule. You don't have to go crazy and hit a very specific number. I'd say minus 14 is a nice number to hit. Let's try to hit minus 14. So that means if I'm at minus 18.7, what I'm going to do, and how we're going to do that is we're going to use a limiter or a maximizer plugin. Again, these can be stock. This is the Pro Tools one. It's called Maxim, so this is just the stock. And we are at something like 18.5 or 18.7. So I'm going to pull the threshold down about 4.5 and see if I can compensate to get myself up to about minus 14. And let's just take another quick listen here. Here's our meter. Let's just take a listen again. It's going to sound louder now. You're going to notice that.
There's a moment in each day. A quiet pause. A time to reconnect with yourself and with nature. At Henderson Tea, we believe in the power of...
So yeah, we don't got to listen to the whole thing again, but that basically did what I want. We got up into the minus 14. We are peaking a little bit, so if you can set your ceiling, you can pull that to like minus 2 or minus 3 or minus 0.1. Sorry, minus 0.1, 0.2, or 0.3, not minus 1 or minus 2. Just to make sure that you're not peaking. Do something like that.
And with nature. At Henderson Tea, we believe in the power of small rituals. Henderson Tea. Sip the moment.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. So that is basically how you can use these DIY demo beds in a simple way and in a more advanced way, and make your own portfolio samples. Even if you're an experienced talent and you already have demos, you have professional demos, still a great way if you really would like, a more sentimental piece and you don't really have work experience for that, or you don't really have a demo piece for that. This is a great way to sort of add certain little segments that you might not have represented in your portfolio. This is a way that you can add them. Or if you're just starting out, this is a really great way to get started actually having some sort of a demo before you move on to getting a professional demo, which is going to be totally customized and tailored towards you. And I am a demo producer as well. I do full-on customized professional demos as well. So that's really what this process is birthed out of, but this is just sort of a productized version of it, if you will, that's sort of more standardized and generalized. But this is a great way, again, if you're just starting out as a new talent and you need demos, you need some sort of portfolio that you can put together. You don't have a lot of great work examples yet. You don't want to spend a ton of money on a professional demo. This is a great way to start to build a portfolio and start to put yourself out there. And again, your voiceover is really on you. So that's going to be your performance quality, your audio quality. That's a prerequisite. So get that in place first. Then move on to doing something like this. And then hopefully once you start booking work and start making some money, then you move on to getting a professional demo. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll be happy to provide any clarification or answer any questions that I can. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys find these helpful.